Here are 10 things you need to know to get more Airbnb bookings in 2024. Welcome back, guys. This is one of 8 top 10 videos that I have planned so far. Do you like them? Let me know in the comments. They keep me on track. Otherwise, I get a little tangential. And quickly, let's get into it. Number 1 is to put calls to action into your marketing copy. What do I mean? Your listing is a marketing page. It's got some photos, it's got some text, it's got prices, it's got reviews. It tries to get the customer to take that final step, which is click reserve. But let's slow this down. When somebody clicks on your Airbnb listing, they don't go straight to book, do they? They look around. 6 out of 10 guests look at the photos first, which means if you're going to put a call to action, which is an invite to do something, in text anywhere, you should add it to the captions of your photos. For example, here's a slick one that'll hopefully earn your like button press. If you have a pool, write in the caption, "We try to keep this pool open all year. Send us a message for our pool schedule." The reason why this matters is Airbnb's algorithm tracks interest, and part of their interest algorithm is they track engagements, wish lists too, yes, but when they send you a message, that counts as an engagement. So a view is good, a wish list is good, a message is good. Even if you don't get bookings from any of that, that drives you up in the Airbnb rank, which means you're more likely to get more views and more likely to get more bookings. Calls to action can go anywhere. They can be invites to message or invites to book or to check certain dates for discounts like an Easter egg hunt. There's tons of stuff that you guys can do. Have fun with it. Number 2 is you need to research and then add underserviced amenities. This is like a business best practice, guys. Underserviced markets is like a buzzword in business. You want to find an industry where not enough customers are getting their needs met. And for example, Airbnb was exactly that for large groups. Large groups don't want to stay in 4 hotel rooms if they could all stay together in a house. Airbnb was able to service an invisible underserviced market that Brian Chesky had no clue he was about to service. Remember, he wanted to do air mattresses in living rooms. 16 people are not going to book your living room unless it's a really nice living room. And did you know you can find underserviced amenities for free on Airbnb? Search like you're a traveler and use the filters section to find out how many listings have each amenity. And bonus, the top 6 are always the most popular amenities in any area that you search. So even if they're not underserviced, they're still popular and people want them. If you want to learn my market research techniques for finding underserviced amenities, I've got this webinar called Gap Market Research. Take that webinar, it is absolutely worth it. Number 3 is you need to take better photos. You need to know how to take some photos, my friends. And if you don't know how to take photos, here's your big tip for this. Do not hire a real estate photographer. You want someone who's more of a product marketer or a social media marketer, because your photos are getting someone to click for a very different reason than a real estate transaction would. You see, a real estate buyer has their own furniture. They've got a family. They're going to build a home. You want them to imagine their stuff in your home if you're going to sell your house. In this case, people are just bringing their luggage. You want them to imagine sitting on your couch. It's a different angle. I've got lots of videos on this one actually, but watch my video on eye candy for more on that. And number 4 is you need to revisit your pricing strategy, your dynamic one. There's 2 types of pricing strategies. Do you even have one pricing strategy? I'm just gonna ask, do you have one? If you don't, hi, my name's Sean. That's the thing I like to talk about most on this YouTube channel. I have a whole free playlist on pricing strategy. But number 4 is dynamic pricing strategy. Prices go up, prices go down based on lead time, supply and demand, seasonality, things like adjacency, which is something that I made up and made Wheelhouse put into their software. Thank you, Wheelhouse. It's like an open-ended orphan day, if I'm going to shortly explain adjacencies. Markets have changed. The landscape has changed. Your dynamic pricing strategy cannot be a set it and forget it thing. And because of how volatile markets have been, Wheelhouse and Price Labs cannot be trusted to do it alone. I'm sorry to tell you that it's not enough. Have you ever used a pricing software and then had a run of empty days anyway? It happens. I tell my students, if your pricing software fails to get you bookings all within 3 weeks in advance, if you're not 100% booked more than 3 weeks out, then they have failed you. In most cases. Some listings don't get bookings that far in advance, but in most cases, that's the case. And you need to consider, are there more hosts in my market? Are there better hosts in my market? Where am I on that ladder of good and bad hosts? How strong is our strong season? How weak is our weak season compared to previous ones as well? You have to put this all into your brain and then use your intuition, a little bit of magic, to choose what the right prices are, especially if you've been trusting pricing software. You're going to have to override those prices sometimes because they're just wrong. I'm sorry to tell you, but they're wrong. Number 5, I said I get tangential, don't I? Yeah, and I just did. Number 5 is to research your market and your competition. I was starting to bleed into that in number 4. Did you catch that? Because if you're better than your competition, your prices can stay higher. If you're worse than your competition, your prices need to come down. If you're headed into slow season, you want to be the first person booked. If you're headed into peak season, you can be the last one booked. It's all good, but you need to know when those are. You need to know when your events are so you can raise your prices for events and you don't get caught up in the same situation that the Taylor Swift host thing where they tried to triple their rate happened. You don't get caught in situations like that because you already adjusted your prices because you knew better. Pro tip, if you're in an event market like Austin, Texas, or anywhere like that, then don't set your prices available a whole year out. Make it like 8 months out and let a pricing software aggregate those prices before your calendar opens up. Protect that range because if events are announced a year in advance and people start to book it like it's super popular, pricing softwares will note that and they'll raise your prices before the date's available. You'll instantly make more money. That is a magic money tip. Hit the subscribe button for that one. Number 6 is new and sneaky. Charge less on the front and find a way to get it on the back end. And a lot of times we do this through retailing, through selling late checkouts and early check-ins. We've got these movie night packs that we sell to guests. Find ways to upcharge your guests for fancy bottles of water, cheese boards, auxiliary rentals like scooters or bikes or motorcycles or cars. Not motorcycles, that's probably dangerous. If your price is too high, you risk not getting a booking at all. And if you have to drop your rate in the slower seasons to get bookings, you can make them money on the back end by selling them some extra stuff, which means this can be a core part of your competitive strategy where you can be more brave dropping your rates because you know that you make about $7 per day per property in add-ons, fancy waters, late checkouts, extra cleaning services, things that you sell through HostCo, anything like that. Number 7 is you need to revisit your pricing strategy for a new one that you've never heard about. It's my first time telling you this. You need a consumer-centric pricing strategy that plans for multiple consumers, multiple outcomes. And you do this through length of stay discounts. Most of you, no offense, use a 3-day minimum stay instead. Like, I don't want 1-day or 2-day stays, so I'm just gonna only allow 3. This hurts you twice. You get shown less in search, which is bad for your SEO. And if you're in a market where people will pay a king's ransom for 1- and 2-day stays, you might as well collect all that money. If you could make 25% more per night for 2 days than you do for 3 days, why not take 2-day stays the whole month? Your revenue would go up 25%. I have a revenue strategy for monthly stays. I've got a revenue strategy for weekly stays. I've got a revenue strategy for weekday workers that work through the weekend. And then I've got my very short-term stay strategies. In some of my markets, I'm actively trying to get 4 different types of customers at the same time for the most amount of money that any of those 4 will pay me. And that allows me to make the most money any time of the year because I've planned ahead for all 4. That is not something I teach for free, by the way. I'm just gonna say that, so I'll see you inside of Cracking Super Roast. Should I do this for 8 or should I do this for 8? 4-4 or 5-3? It's a roll of the dice. I can't really do 6-2. Fingers don't work that way. But number 8 is to split test. I hope I just raised an eyebrow there. Split testing should be new to you. That's okay if it's new to you. And even if you only have a couple of listings or 1, you can still split test. For example, you can split test your hero photo and every 2 days, switch the photo between one and the other. And you'll have to journal this out if you only have 1 listing and find out when you're getting the most messages. What hero photo is showing when you got a message. And you can start to tally number of messages per hero photo. And over the course of a couple weeks, you'll find out which one is better. That's a version of split testing with 1 listing. You can also ask them to message you about a certain thing. So when you add calls to action in your copy, in certain sections of your copy, you can have a call to action for the same reason, but to phrase it differently. For example, in the photos, you ask them to ask about your pool schedule. In your description, ask them to ask you what hour the pool closes. They will often repeat what you said when you instruct them to ask a question. Hey, I'm just inquiring about your pool schedule. Or, hey, what are your pool hours? Schedule and hours were the keywords there, so you find out Are calls to action working more in the body, or are calls to action more working in the photos? This is just a couple of examples. And if you have a lot of listings, you can split test listings side by side. You can have some with cleaning fees, you can have some with none, you can have some with management fees. You could have 3 very slightly different pricing strategies and then go back to see what the average nightly rate for those listings were on the back end and then move forward with whichever one is best. I'm honestly maybe a year and a half new to split testing stuff. This is something that I did not do when I was new. Didn't think about it, not until after COVID. And now finally, I'm playing with things like this and I'm learning a lot of stuff and it's really cool. But when I teach my Cracking Superhost students, I tend that I kind of fumble through the data because it is still so new to me. So if I ever make a video on split testing, it will be heinously long because I just won't know what words to choose. But that's part of my charm, of course. Number 9 is you need to go multi-channel. If you want to get more bookings, you've got to distribute more places. We are starting to see that Airbnb's reputation will govern whether or not guests are using it. I've seen VRBO come and give me 50% of my bookings at times, where Airbnb is normally roughly responsible for 85% plus in my apartments. VRBO has come up and taken 1 out of 2 sometimes. And a lot of this is whether or not VRBO is running ads or whether or not Airbnb's recently got tagged for some bad stuff, but you do not want to get caught in the crossfire of that. If Airbnb is having a bad week, you do not deserve to have a bad week with them. So get on VRBO. And if you're on coastal spots like San Francisco or Tampa or Miami or New York, maybe even Chicago, then get on Booking.com. If you have a lot of Eastern European and Asian international travelers, you're going to get a lot of Booking.com. If you have a lot of apartments, get on Hopper too. Get on Google Hotels by having your own direct booking platform. And that's number 10 is you need to build a back end to go direct with your bookings. This is not something that you just magically turn on and boom, you're ready. So as far as Google Hotels go, you can do it through Booking.com. Or you can do it through TripAdvisor. You can do it through your channel manager. That'll happen, and that's going to get you there initially, but you also need to build out a way to collect emails. You need to build out a way to retarget with those emails. You have to consider an email campaign. You need to think about what your brand is going to be. What are you going to say in an email? Hey guy, thank you so much for staying in my Airbnb. Are you cool with staying off Airbnb next time? That's not going to cut it. You need to start composing copywriting in an email that is brand centric. Something that says, hey, we are a magical organization with or without Airbnb. You're going to love it here. And sign up for other companies' email lists. Sign up for VRBO's email list. Sign up for Marriott Homes and Villas. Sign up for Sonder. Even though you probably don't want to send emails like Sonder does, it's a little too corporate. You want something that's boutique and your own, and you're going to get there. It's going to take time, but you can get there. That's it, guys. It's past my bedtime. If you want to see the top 10 things that you need inside of your Airbnb, again, let me tell you, watch that video next. Thank you so much for watching this video, and as always, I will see you on the other side.